Good morning, guys. Top of the morning to you. Out here checking the bucket trap this morning. And I've been making a few adjustments to it. There's a small bucket there, you can see. I'm going to show you how to build this thing. I made some slick adjustments to it. And here's the result. Mr. Ringtail. Yeah. Making meat, guys. That's what it's all about, making meat. I don't see my little bait cup. I did experimenting with bait cups and stuff. This spring pole right here is a rod. You can get them at Lowe's. They're for electric fence posts and stuff. Yeah, they're 4 foot long. I put two together with some tie wire right there and wrap it Gorilla Tape, and it makes an excellent spring pole for this device. Yeah, looks like I've made a shoulder catch here. A lot of times I make a neck catch, and you want to check these traps fairly early in the AM because, as you can see, they really wrap up. And he's not stressed out, really, see? Now, he'd be a little bit more stressed out if he was neck caught. Yeah. So I'm going to dispatch him, and then later on, I will show you how to build this trap. It's very, very cheap trap to build. Probably the cheapest bucket trap out there. I call this thing the SD snare bucket. It's kind of my little invention. All right, let's get her done here. I'll get back with you later. Alrighty, guys, it's daylight. I'm gonna go ahead and pull this bucket out of the ground for you and show you just exactly how I mount the bucket to the ground. There's several ways you can do this. This one is held together with cable anchors. I'll show you how to get this in a minute, how I retrieve them, how I get this out of the ground. This bucket is locked to the ground to where it's going to have, when you set this trap, it's going to try to lift up, right? So it's held to the ground with tie wire. This coon, here's my spring pole set up right here, you see. And it's backed off. Let's see, this bucket pole is backed off 1, 2, 3, 4, about 5 feet. About 5 feet. You can see this bends way down like so. Bends way down like that. You can see the arc in that thing. And when you let go of it, it's got a pretty good, as you can see, a pretty good pop to that. Now, I've got a concrete block as an anchor. You don't need that. You could use a tree. You won't really necessarily need to use these anchor devices I'm about to show you. You can use 2 saplings that are about this far apart. Say you got a sapling here and a sapling here. You can run, the saplings need to be probably as big as your wrist, because if you get a big boar coon in this thing, he's going to try to rip the woods down. Okay, they're very powerful animals. Keep that in mind. Possum doesn't take much to hold. When you take a big coon, they're pretty ferocious. So the way I have this set up here, it works. He can't drag off that concrete block. Coyote would have a hard time dragging that off, I do believe. But anyway, I'm going to show you the anchors on that. And if you had a sapling, like I say, on either side, say one here and one here, then you can take another sapling across the top, tie it over here with tie wire on this sapling, and then bend it down a little bit. This is all temporary till you catch the critter. The anchor point, instead of a concrete block, you could use a tree sapling here and put your cable on that, and that will work also. Okay, so you can do that, or use, I like to use these dirt anchors. They work pretty slick. Let me show you how I get them out of the ground. Okay guys, the earth anchors, the cable, the 16th cable I use 16th cable on catching possums and coons. I use 8th cable to catch wild hogs. Okay, that's what I use. Now, where to get the materials, all your materials, F&T, they're your go-to people. F&T Fur Harvesters Trading Post. They're in Alpena, Michigan. Google them. Great company, great boys down there. They'll fix you up. Great company deal. We get all your cable there. You can get all your snare locks. I make my own snare locks, and I'll show you that in a minute, how to do that. But to get these anchors out of the ground, what we're going to do here is I'm going to undo this tie wire. It's 14 gauge tie wire. This is about all the tie wire I use is 14 gauge. So that's that. Now that bucket is freed up, and on this anchor system there is 2 cables coming out of it. One is the installation one that doesn't come up. You can pull on this wire all you want, it's not coming out of the ground. But the other one, what happens, I'll show you in a second what happens. And it takes a pretty good pull to do it. You don't have to have a manhole puller like this to get them out. You can use, they have other puller devices, but this is the trick right here. This thing works great for holding this to the ground. This is the retrieval portion here, you see. And this is about 18 inches long. And this one here's, this wire here's 2 feet long, what I'm using to hold this bucket to the ground. I have a driver that goes in here. Let me knock the dirt out of this thing. I got to dig it out with a little stick. The dirt out of there gets in there. But what happens, I have a hardened rod that goes in here in this pocket, and you just, this bullet point you just stick down and you hammer it in to the depth you want. And I would hammer this in about 18 inches. Okay, it's going to go in the length of this. I think this is 18 inches. And one of these will hold a coyote on a steel trap. So that's the holding power of these things. So look these up. Get these from F&T. They're dirt anchors. Okay. And this is the system I use. I just use 14 gauge tie wire, and I drive this puppy in the ground till this loop is just barely out of the ground, like that, to where you can come in and pull it out. Now you can put rebar through here with a handle where you can pull this out. Takes a little strength to do it. Let's get this other one out of the ground here. Get your back into it. Use your legs. There it is. Okay. All right. So we will come back out, and I will reinstall this bucket. I'm going to move this bucket over here. Actually, I'm going to put these here. We're going to take this bucket into the shop here in a minute. For a minute here and show you what I'm doing with that. And I'll show you what to do. Here's the bait cup on this thing. I'll show you that. So let's go in the shop. Alrighty guys, that coon and I caught, actually it was a female I caught. She's about mid-size. She had things so wrapped up, the string and all up here. I'll show you how to re-rig that. But I always put this is the top of my spring pole right here. I drill an 1/8 inch hole. There's the whole deal there, the length of it. This is 8 foot long. There's a connection here in the middle. You just take 2 of these 4-foot rods. Take 2 of these 4-foot rods, and I just take tie wire, 14 gauge. And by the way, I take my tie wire. You get the Lowe's, and you just take the straps off of it. It's like 4 straps on here. Take those off, and then reach inside here and get a hold of it and pull it up a little bit so you can reach through a hole here and grab hold of this wire with some needle nose and pull it out to extract it. But yeah, I just take a piece of this out like so, and I double it over about like that, and I take 3 of those and I wrap around one end. I lock in my vise here. I lock this in my vise so I kind of, you know, stable. I throw the rest of this rod on the bench here, and then I take my doubled wire here and I go around here and I cinch it up in 3 spots, one in the middle and one here and here, and then you just Gorilla Tape it. Good old Gorilla Tape, and you put on there. And that's my spring pole. But now this other end, I like to put a loop on here. Like I said, I drill an 1/8 inch hole here in one end, and cut off a little bit of cable. These are a little pricey. These are about $25 or $30, these cable cutters, but they're worth it. And my cable I buy, if you do a lot of this trapping like I do, the only way to buy it is by 500-foot rolls. This has lasted a long time. But this stuff is cheap, guys. It's really cheap to do. So I need a loop about like so at the top of my deal here, the top of my spring pole. So let's just cut this off. Get a bunch of these ferrules, 16. I've got them for 8. See here, I got a whole pack of them here, 16. Matter of fact, I might as well just dump them in here. It's all mixed up together. Yeah, so what you do is you run through your end here, and you stick one end in there, and you stick the other end in here like so. Now you've created this loop. Put her up on the anvil. Smash your thumb down. No, don't smash your thumb down. Don't smash your thumb down. You know why? It hurts like hell, and just, you know, you wonder how I know that, right? Okay, so that's done. That's done with there. That is done deal right there. Now my string is going to be tied on here. It's a double loop ditty. I'll show you that in a little bit when we get ready to install. So I'm basically done. I've got to make another snare here. And here's my snare locks. These are homemade. This is a 1/8 inch hole, by the way. This is putting a 16th cable through an 1/8 inch hole. Okay. All right. So what we're going to do here is decide what size we need a loop. So just take your cable here, kind of put in your bucket here with these little wire keepers I got here, like so, to get an idea of what size you're going to need a loop. So that goes here, real quickly, get an idea what you're going to need for a loop to go in there, like so. Okay, your lock's going to be here, like that, you see. And then you're going to want a little cable out over here, about this far out over. to make another loop. Let's cut this off. Okay, this is my homemade washer locks. You can buy these from F&T. They've got a variety of kinds. They've got Pam lock. These work fairly well. Actually, that's one for eighth cable, and that will hold a hog right there. Yeah, it will. It will hold a hog. And they've got the Thompson snare locks. Here's a Thompson snare lock. I don't like these for my buckets. They just don't zip down tight enough for me. And so I found just making my own snare locks. Here's a little smaller one. And you just drill an 1/8 inch hole through them. I take and lay it on the bench or the anvil, and I just kind of eyeball this deal, and I put this is my marker here, and give her a hit. Give her a hit, I'll make a little small mark, come over here, straight across, do the same thing. And then you're gonna drill it, but then you'll have a little burr, so I go over to my bench grinder and I just grind off that little bit of burr on there. So what you can do with this, and when I drill this, I usually drill it off the side here. So you can do it up top here if you like. You leave it up high, and your little dimple you put in there, come in. A lot of times I'll come in with a 1/16 drill, and I come back in with an 1/8 drill to create that. But to get the lock bent, you just come up, leave this up top here, lock it down halfway, and just bend this over in a 90 degrees. Just like that. That creates your lock, okay? Now, you don't have a lot of meat here. You don't have a lot of meat here from the edge of this to the inside. So get pretty accurate with your deal here. Otherwise, if you get too thin, that one's a little thin, but I think it'll be fine right there. Because these critters are really fighting this thing. All right. So your lock is like so, right? So you want to come from the outside here, push this through like that. So your stop button's on the outside. Some guys bend them over, I don't. And then just shove it up through the hole here, like so. Now you've created that, right? And check this out. When I zip that down, that baby is tight. It ain't coming apart. It's not coming apart until you get down here and loosen it up. So that's all there is. It's just a binding action is all it is on these locks. Some guys, like I said, they bend this down. I find it's not necessary myself. So that is the snare. That's your basic snare. Very simple. You can catch rabbits. You can catch bears with this thing. You can catch deer with this thing. You can catch critters. You can catch meat animals, and that's what I'm doing, catching meat animals. So see there, it falls really fast. And when that spring thing, that spring rod hits them, I mean, it's zipping it down on them pretty fast. So there's that. And the other end of the snare, all you're going to do is create a loop here. Bring this around like so. You're creating this smaller loop here, but you want the loop big enough because you're going to pass everything back through here to come around and anchor itself. Okay, and I'll show you that on the good. So you got a little loop action here. So you just pound this down tight. That's done. That's your completed snare that's going to go in this bucket. And when this is done, see if I can get this thing, get the camera angle right here. This is the top of the bucket here. This is the top of your bucket. And you'll see I've got a little slice in here. All I do is melt that in with a little wood burning tool. Melt that in right there. Because I want this thing to come in. The snare is going to go in there. The cable is coming out. The cable is coming out the top of the bucket like this. The rest of this loop is coming inside these little points here. Just like that. There's your set snare in that bucket right there, guys. When I get out in the field, I'm going to put dirt in here, and it'll cover that cable up. But just put sand in there. Don't get any debris in there like twigs or sticks. Just put sand in there, up to about here and over to here. That's a nice natural floor. That coon will walk in. He won't be jittery about this plastic bottom. He's got dirt there. He just says, well, heck, that's just an old log. I'll go in there. They're not afraid of these white buckets. This could be pink with green polka dots. They don't care. So that's that. Here's your cable here hanging out. This is going to be going over to your spring pole, and that's going to be attached to there. Okay guys, now on this spring pole, what I've got here is a piece of number 30 tarred nylon. Okay, number 30 tarred nylon. It's got 2 loops on it. Very simple. I put a loop here, overhand knot. This is about, I don't know, let's throw a tape measure on it so you know what I got. That loop right there is about 8 inch. It's about a good 8-inch drop down loop on this thing. Yeah, about 8 inches from this knot to here, this loop. Then just about 2 inches above that, I've got another little loop, but this, you can see, a lot shorter. This little length here is going to get actually tied onto here. This tarred nylon, guys, I use it for everything, catfishing, whatever. I mean, it is some tough ass stuff right here, guys. It's some tough material, let me tell you. Looks like I got a pretty fair knot on it. It's kind of frayed up, but I just keep using this stuff till it's just nothing to it. But it lasts forever, guys. That's all you need, just a knot on there. All right, now what I've got here is a basket. This is my latest design trick here. All this is, let me get a nail here. My trigger nail is this thing. It's just a duplex nail, is all it is. Got 2 heads on that thing, right? What I was having trouble with, guys, the basket here, this is the bait basket. I've tried all kind of stuff. This thing works pretty slick. What I was just making an open cut here, an open hole here. No divider wall here. You see I got a little divider wall in here. This portion here goes up against the back of that bucket. There's a hole in that bucket. And when you make your basket, it don't really matter what size, just make sure that when you put your basket in with this nail in it, you bring it up here and you set it against that wall like that, right? Get in there with a Sharpie and mark that where that hole is. Then you can take your melter. It's what I use here. It's just a wood burning melter to make all these penetrations in here and make this and everything. So it's got to go into that hole right there. You see that hole? That goes right in there. Your basket's on the floor. You'll notice on the bottom of this thing, it slides pretty easy on these anchor things here I got. You can use those to crimp down. They're just for cage building. Because all they are is a little C-tool. Where's my bucket? I'm not seeing my bucket right here. But anyway, they just crimp down and hold the basket together. Your homemade basket here. All right. So what I did, what was happening, the coons were coming in. The object here is for them to come in, right? They see the bait in there. They're only this far away, right? Just right here in front of this thing. There's dirt here. Dirt's coming up into here. They see that basket. It's full of sardines. Them coons are so nimble with their fingers, they could come right in without jerking on this basket and clean that whole basket out. So I said, okay, I'll play your silly game. I'm going to put a divider wall in here. This trigger, I came up with all kind of scenarios, guys, for these bucket traps. I'll come in here with a foot pedal on it and the string running through this hole right here. You got to lay on the ground to set this thing. Because you're going to have two hands. You got to bring the cable, this loop through, this loop here. I was passing the longer loop, was passing through this bucket down to a foot pedal trigger deal. With this device, simple as heck, whenever you have a problem like this, just say, what is the simplest, easiest, laziest way to do this thing? And this is what I came up with, all right? So what was happening, the coons were coming in, cleaning out this entire cup that sits in that hole right there, and cleaning out the cup and going, never firing off nothing. But here's where I tricked them, and this pissed them off when I did this. I put this divider wall in here. Now this wall is here, you see, and they got to get behind there to get the rest of these sardines out, and it's too hard for them to get in here. So what do? They come in here and they get tired of fooling around here with this thing and cleaning this portion out, which is hard to do because it's not that far away. They just get in here and grab it and pull. Well, when they do that, guys, this loop is coming down on my spring pole and coming right there, just like that. This is easy to do when you got spring tension on this rod, by the way. Pull this in, and this cuts here. That's it right there, guys. That is your trigger for this whole setup right here. It's so simple. It's so simple, guys, it's stupid, all right? When they pull on that basket, guess what happens? They pull this off of that peg, and this rod goes shooting up 100 miles an hour. And what's waiting for them, by the way, this so you see what the other loop is for. This one is in the back on the nail. You have enough slop here on this steel to where this loop is over here, just free ranging, right? That is coming through here, right here, just like that. So this line, this other loop here is in the back on that peg. So when he pulls that basket forward, this thing fires, and it fires fast. And it is hooked over here to your line that's going to that concrete block. This is actually, I put an extension cable, which I've got to make another one because he twisted it all up. And instead of the concrete block, we're going to put an earth anchor on this one to where I'm only over here just a few feet, couple feet, probably a couple feet right over here. It's going to be another earth anchor cable down into the ground. So this will automatically, when it fires, it snaps up, you see, on the inside, and it will either catch him. I've caught them everywhere. I've caught them by the pigs, I've caught by the nose. It depends how fast they are. But I've caught them with one leg, and I don't know how they've done it. They've gotten inside the bucket. I use a trash can and hog. They've had their 1 foot in there, and then up under the armpit and that way, and I've caught them dead around the neck. Dead around the neck is where I try to get the hogs, but you don't know. You never know on these traps how you're going to catch them. But that's basically the whole trap. And the trigger system is so simple, it's stupid, because now you'll have to trim off. This is a 1-inch mesh. This is 1 by half. Okay, this here is 1 inch by ½ inch. So there's 2 inches by 2 inches by 2 inches. So it's a 2-inch square box made out of 1/2 by 1 welded wire. Now you can make this thing out of anything, but this is sturdy. This thing is sturdy. That's what you want. You made this thing out of a little 1/2 by 1/2 hardware cloth. The coon's able to rip it all to pieces. This is something that this will be laying outside, outside or laying over here. This actually I found inside the concrete block cell. But normally they're real close. You can see them because they're light color. They don't seem to get lost in the bushes, whatever. But you could actually even spray this thing fluorescent orange in case it did get off to the side in the weeds. And he had this cage here, fluorescent orange. I may do that with this thing. But what I did to secure this nail in, as you can see here, if you get in here close, I did stuck it up to where I had the duplex heads, one inside the cage and one out, you see. And then I ran a wire, tie wire, one piece around over inside of that smashed head and crimped it there. Now that's locked. It ain't going nowhere, see. It's locked in there. Now this one over here, all I had to do, because I've locked it in, I just needed to keep the nail from going side to side. So then I ran a nail through one mesh around, tightened it up, and that's it. But this trigger here was the key to it. That little inside partition wall is what did it. See, it's kind of tight. You only got 1 inch here, in here, and 1 inch in here. And then this is shoved up tight against that wall. So he is going to work his butt off to get these sardines, and he's going to get mad, and he's going to get in there with a claw. It don't take a lot of pressure either to pull this nail, even though we've got this loop tension from our spring pull, you see, on that nail outside, like so. I had to cut this nail too, by the way, guys. You can see here, what did I do here? Looks about like I cut off, if you can see it, it looks like I cut off about a ½ inch off of this nail, because you don't want a whole lot sticking out here. You don't want a whole lot of nail. You don't want a whole lot of nail protruding out the back here, about like that. Don't get too close. It's going to be hard to get your loop on there. And then I did a little grind on it. Went to the bench grinder and I ground it off so there's no snags. It's like smooth. You want a smooth deal. When you pull on that, it fires. So that's about it on how this bucket trap works. I'll show you, we'll go out back here and I'll drive this bucket in the ground and show you how that works. All right guys, instead of the concrete block, we'll try this scenario here. This is the retrieval portion, right? This is how it gets drove in the ground. We're gonna put a driving rod through here. And then off of this one is going to come up out of the ground, so along with this one too. See, we got a loop on this one. This is a retrieval cable. So we'll take our ferrule stop here, slide it on the cable, then we're going to put it through here, come around here, put it in there, and you can pull this down about like so, and then we will hammer this down. I like to kind of clench it. You can take pliers, whatever, and snug it or don't jump out of the ferrule. And take it on over here to your anvil. I did this kind of so you can see what I'm doing here. Normally I use the anvil over here, but I don't think you can see it on camera. So tighten that puppy up like that. Now this one here is going to be attached to the line coming out. Going to be attached over here to the snare itself. So we want a little bit of line here. We want enough line to go in the ground. We want about 18 inches. So there's about 18 inches in the ground. This ain't got to be exact, but you don't want it in so far that you can't, your rod, you run out of driving rod. And I'll show you the driving rod. So that's coming there at the ground level basically, and then we want a foot or two here to come over to our snare. So I'm going to cut that there. Now, so this is attached to our driving stake, our anchor stake. Now, F&T sells these too, swivels. You get all kind of swivel. You get a dog swivel, whatever you think is going to hold your critter, and you can put that through there, the hole. You take a small nut. They sell these down there too. And you crush this down. No, you don't crush that down. You put that on. That's going to slide down and prevent that. Now you're going to put on a crimp sleeve like so. And you can do this to double it back like that. And then pull out the slack down to about there. Make a small loop. Set the loop so it don't jump out. Tighten her up like that. Now what you have is a swivel. So now this critter, he's going to go flying around here, round and around and around, and you're going to help stop all this twisting on your cable. Somewhat. They'll figure out a way to screw this up, guys. Trust me on that. It would be nice to have a little small washer, which I don't have. A small washer on the back side of that nut, on this side of the nut here. So it's riding it, and that washer could be up. But this will work pretty much. This will be better than nothing, let's put it that way. That thing is not coming out of there. So there you go, that's the anchor setup for this next deal. And then what we'll do is we will attach our snare to this end, and this will go to our bucket. Okay. Now to attach that, what I can actually do here, what I probably can do here, guys, is just go ahead and mount that to my swivel. I've got plenty of line here. I think that's what I'll do. Actually, I've got a clip here. We're going to attach it with a clip. I don't want to take off any more of this. We'll attach this to the swivel end, and we'll do it that way. Alrighty guys, I'm over here at my location. There was the old location right there. So we're going to move over here. And you take this rod here. This is a driving rod. This was the extra hard one. Extra strong one. Tempered one. It's a little more money, but it was worth it to get it. A lot harder rig. You don't want to... something you can't really bend, okay? Bend up, screw up. So you stick that rod in there and you stick it right here next to your bucket, about center of your bucket, and you drive that baby in there. I got a little 3-pound hammer here, trapping hammer I did, east wing, and I got some heavy duty metal here, and I had my mechanic weld that on there for me. So you want to drive it on down. You can see that loop coming over here, going on down. That's 18 inches long, by the way. See it here? Drive it down to where it's just sticking out of the ground. There you go. Now pull your rod out, your driver rod out, and grab a hold of the wire that's actually going to hold this bucket to the ground, and give her a yank. Actually, you can put some pliers on her and give her a nice yank like that. Reposition your bucket here. Grab your other anchor. Set it down inside the bucket. And drive that baby in there. See your loops here. Drive it in until that loop's just sticking out of the dirt. Grab this with your lineman pliers and give it a yank. Okay, that's it, guys. Now, just take your 2 wires and make sure your slot's at the top. Cross your 2 wires like so. Give her a twist like that. Grab it with your pliers. Start sucking her down tight. Get some clockwise action here, Steve-O. Need a little clockwise action here. You don't need tons of soup, pressure here. As a matter of fact, I got a little too much. I don't want to distort that bucket too much, but that thing's held the ground pretty darn good right there. Take your extra wire and just move it over, just like that. Take your basket with the holes up and stick it in the hole there, just like that. Now, what I got here is my anchor rig. It's going to go over here to the side like this, over here. I'm going to drive that baby in the ground over here. And then I'm going to attach it to this swivel right here. Actually, I could go over just a tad further, right over there with it. Yeah, like that. All right, now I'm just going to take some 14 gauge tie wire, guys. Put her here and twist that baby up right there. Get my Leathermans on it. Now they do make clips for these where you don't have to do this. This will work fine. Just like that, okay? All right, now what we'll do, alrighty guys, now what we need to do is set up our spring pole here. This thing is 4 feet to the center of that. So 5 feet's right about here. So I'm going to stick this rod in right here and we'll test it a little bit. I'm coming back at a little bit of an angle here, guys. Just shove this thing in by hand. About a foot. All right, let's test drive it here. I'd say that's going to work pretty good. I think that's going to work pretty good, guys. All right, let me move this junk over. I got the wrong angle dangle, hang on. Alrighty guys, I got her lock cocked and ready to rock. There is my cable there going over, and the earth anchor's right over there about 3 feet over. And hopefully he doesn't destroy that cable, but if he does, kink it up so bad I can't reuse it, no big deal. This cable's pretty cheap stuff. You can see I've got her coming down. She's all loaded. I had to back up my rod a little bit because what happened, I had my angle. It kept tripping on me. And my angle was a little bit off. So you want this line coming straight down to pick up this nail peg. And then your snare comes through this secondary loop. You can see when this fires, it's dragging all this up. There's enough slack over there and a slack in this cable to zip up around his body. Okay, so now what you're going to do, what you want to do now is, see where I'm going here. I just dig a little hole right off the side here, and I just get me some dirt. And I cover that up. Now, if you've got a cable that wants to fall down on you, take a pine needle, stiff your cable up in there, and slip that through. Okay? Just put dirt in here, just like a dirt floor. That coon's gonna feel nice and relaxed. He comes up in here and sees the dirt floor in here like this. One thing I forgot to show you guys, I was just sitting here looking at the bucket, is these loops. I've got two loops here apart, across from each other. I've got one here, looks like 3 and 9, and I got one up here at what would be, what would that be, 11 and 2, or 11 and 1. Yeah. And all I did is take 14 gauge tie wire and I drilled 4 holes. And I took 1 length of tie wire, and you can see maybe through this glue, that's hot glue by the way. I shoved the wire through, came over, and I came back out. Then I came over here, this hole went through, came out this hole. Then I pulled the slack, but I put a screwdriver, a Phillips screwdriver through here, and I pulled out the slack, I twisted it, hot glued that in, that tightened everything up. And that creates your loops here, as you can see, to hold that in. This bucket here is ready to rock and roll, guys. She's solid, she's in there. This little bit of hole I just dug here will make them curious too. Yeah. Make sure you don't get any sticks or twigs there, because when this thing fires, you don't want nothing between your critter and that cable. So that's pretty much it, guys. Pretty simple trap. Once you build them, I mean, it don't take long to build this thing. Some guys out there getting these bucket traps. They're getting $95 for them. What have I got in this thing? The bucket's free. Granted, I had 3 anchors here, and you don't even need those. You can use sapling trees to secure this bucket to the ground. So, you know, $5 worth of parts, you got a trap that you can catch meat with. And yeah, all I can say, guys, make more meat. Make more meat. I don't care what the far left does or says, we're gonna make more meat. All right, guys, I'll see you on the next one. Be happy, be strong, because we gotta keep making more meat. See ya.